Daniel Cole was not born with a silver spoon, but his hands turned everything he touched into gold. At just 33, he had built Cole Tech Solutions, a thriving software company based in Makoko, Lagos. He started it from a makeshift desk in his small apartment after his NYSC, driven by grit and quiet brilliance. By the time most of his mates were still searching for jobs, Daniel had opened offices in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. People called him the Quiet Builder. He hated loud parties and Instagram clout. He preferred the calm of good jazz, weekend visits to his mother in Iyani Paja, and fixing his local school's broken computers. Despite his growing success, Daniel remained grounded. He was the kind of man who never forgot where he came from. He still used his old phone and wore native attire to meetings. But behind all the calm and kindness, there was a space in his life that success hadn't filled love. That changed one rainy Friday in Victoria Island. He had just finished speaking at a tech summit when his best friend Michael insisted they check out a fashion store to help him pick an outfit for his anniversary dinner. And that's where Daniel saw her. Standing by a display of Ankara gowns was a woman in a mustard yellow dress, a gold head wrap tied in a perfect knot, and nails painted like a Lagos sunset. Her name was Grace Adeyemi. She had the grace of a swan and the eyes of someone who'd seen life and smiled through it anyway. She helped Daniel pick a shirt, and when she laughed at one of his awkward jokes, it stirred something old and unfamiliar inside him. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't want to leave a place. 2 days later, Grace sent a text. "Still laughing about your shirt size. Let me take you for a mile of my treat." Daniel blinked at his phone, grinned like a schoolboy, and typed, "Name the time." She took him to a small Amala spot in Surulere. He had expected a fine dining setup, but Grace had waved off his surprise. "Rich people eat fancy. Real people eat real," she said with a wink. That night, Daniel laughed more than he had in months. Her authenticity disarmed him. Their bond grew like a plant watered daily, simple, deliberate, honest. Grace would text him every morning with, "Hope you slept well, my person." She wasn't interested in his wealth. She rarely asked about work and was more curious about his favorite songs and childhood mischief. On his birthday, she surprised him with a hand-stitched native shirt in his favorite color, blue. Daniel was taken not by her beauty alone, but by her raw sincerity. Grace told him about her dreams too. She worked as a boutique manager but dreamed of opening her own fashion brand someday. Daniel didn't hesitate. He helped her build a modest online store, bought her a camera for product photos, and even connected her with a few local stylists he knew. She was grateful, at least she said she was. Daniel had no reason to doubt her. When he finally told her, "I think I'm falling for you," Grace looked at him with those deep, honest eyes and whispered, "I've been waiting for you to say that." 6 months in, Daniel brought Grace home to meet his mother and 2 sisters. They welcomed her with warm hands and bowls of hot jollof and ogbono soup. Mama Cole, a retired headmistress, was skeptical at first. Grace was Yoruba, and the Cole family was staunchly Ijal, but Grace's respectful nature eased her. She helped in the kitchen, addressed everyone as Ma and Sir, and even gave Daniel's youngest niece a beaded bracelet. "She's different," Mama Cole said later, half smiling, "but she's trying." Daniel felt confident enough to tell his father, retired Navy Captain Cole, about Grace. His father's face was unreadable as he leaned back and said, "You know we're not just marrying a woman, we're joining families. Be sure she honors yours." Daniel assured him, "She does, sir. You'll like her. She's fire, but the good kind." His father gave a small nod. "Love should unite, not destroy. I trust you." But Daniel began to notice things. Small things. Grace would scoff at his accent in front of her friends. She once said, "Don't worry, I'll change your wardrobe after marriage." He laughed, but something in him ached. At a family gathering, she rolled her eyes when asked to kneel while greeting the elders. "I'm not in a Nollywood movie," she muttered under her breath. He brushed it off. "Love is patient," he told himself. "Love is kind, but love should also be clear." Grace had always dreamed of a grand proposal, so Daniel planned one fit for a queen. On her birthday, he flew her to Abuja, a rooftop restaurant, sunset, violinists playing Asa's bibanki, and a velvet ring box. Grace cried. Then she laughed. Then she screamed, Yes! The next morning, her Instagram exploded with the caption, "My person, God did." The comments rolled in. Power couple. Grace in gold. #wedding goals. Daniel's family began planning the traditional engagement. Grace's family wanted to honor their Yoruba roots first in Ibadan. Daniel agreed. He brought palm wine, wrappers, goat meat, and elders. The music was sweet. The people danced. But Grace barely smiled. She whispered to her sister, "This culture thing is too much Jer." When the Cole family hosted the Ija ceremony, things worsened. Grace grimaced at the bitter leaf soup, poked at the roasted plantain, and muttered, "Why is everything so oily?" Daniel's aunt, who had spent the day cooking, overheard. His mother noticed too. "She doesn't see us," Mama Cole whispered that night. "She sees your love as an elevator, not a home." Still, Daniel pushed on, because love, he believed, was bigger than pride. The wedding preparations began. Grace wanted Abuja, not Lagos, not Port Harcourt. "It's neutral ground and more elegant," she insisted. Daniel nodded. She wanted celebrity planners, imported fabrics, 7-tier cakes, and saxophonists with Instagram fame. "Let her have her day," Daniel told his father when the bills rose past expectation. "I can afford it." But cracks widened. Grace forbade any Ijal food at the reception. "Let's not confuse people with strange soups," she told the caterer. Daniel's cousin, who overheard, was furious. "She doesn't want to represent your roots?" Daniel downplayed it again. "She's stressed. It's the wedding pressure." 3 days before the big day, Daniel overheard Grace telling her friend on the phone, "Once I open my shop in Lekki, I'll sort myself out. This marriage is just a stepping stone." He paused, heart pounding. But then he walked away from the hallway, pretending he hadn't heard it. He told himself he was overthinking. That night he barely slept, but by morning he smiled at Grace's text. "Can't wait to be Mrs. Cole." The day before the wedding was a whirlwind of colors, deliveries, and last-minute fittings. Grace and her bridesmaids were lodged at a luxury hotel in Abuja, while Daniel stayed 2 floors down with his best man, Michael. Laughter echoed from Grace's suite, but Daniel's heart was quiet. He stared at the wedding schedule on his tablet, ticking items off but feeling more like a project manager than a groom. Late in the evening, he decided to drop off some snacks and a fruit basket for Grace and her girls. As he reached the door, he paused. It was slightly ajar, and voices filtered through. "Girl, you've hit the jackpot," one bridesmaid, Laura, giggled. "Tech CEO, 3 offices? This is soft life." Grace's voice followed, laughing. "Please, I beg, let me enjoy the ride. 1 year and I'm done. I just need that Lekki store and peace out. Dio's waiting." Daniel froze. "Dio? The ex-boyfriend?" His mind struggled to process the laughter that followed. "Can you imagine me staying long-term with someone who can't even pronounce entrepreneur properly?" Grace joked. Her friends roared. Something inside Daniel cracked. He stepped back, breathing heavily, but still went inside moments later. They straightened up quickly. "Babe," Grace squealed, hugging him. Daniel smiled faintly, dropped the basket, and left. Back in his room, Daniel sat in silence. Michael walked in with a bottle of malt and stopped when he saw his friend's face. "You okay?" he asked. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he whispered, "She's marrying me for the money, and she's still in love with someone else." Michael's hands clenched. "We're shutting this down. Now." Daniel nodded, but quietly he added, "We do it with dignity." That night, Michael returned to the bridal suite with a small camera and a warm smile. "Hey ladies, just here to capture behind-the-scenes footage for the wedding blog," he said casually. The girls, basking in bridal glow, laughed and posed. "Let's do something fun," Michael added. "Pretend it's 1 year later, you're rich, fabulous, and free." They played along. Grace picked up a wine glass and declared, "Cheers to my freedom from village soup and fake traditions." Laughter. "No more bitter leaf," one added. "No more bush people," Grace continued. "Now I can open my fashion house, leave this marriage, and go back to Dio. I deserve real love, not just someone who worships me like I'm gold." Unbeknownst to them, Michael's tiny voice recorder, hidden under a scarf on the vanity, captured every word. He left shortly after, his smile fading the moment the suite door closed behind him. He returned to Daniel's room and handed him the recording. "Every word," he said. Daniel sat, listening in full. No interruptions, no denial. When the clip ended, he stood up. "Call my parents. We're not walking into that church blind." At 1 a.m., Daniel met his parents in a quiet corner of the hotel garden. His mother listened with quiet pain. His father fumed, fists clenched. "We cancel this tomorrow," he said. But Mama Cole, eyes fierce, said, "No. Let her be exposed. Let her words undo the wedding, not yours. We don't cover shame, we reveal truth." Daniel nodded slowly. So be it. The wedding venue was breathtaking. White roses lined the aisle. Gold drapes fluttered softly, and guests shimmered in flowing agbadas and sequin gowns. Phones clicked, smiles glowed. The groom waited by the altar, but Daniel Cole's face was unreadable. Calm, cold. Behind that stillness, a storm brewed. The music shifted. The church doors opened. Grace stood radiant in a pearl-white dress, beaming as she walked down the aisle. Guests gasped. Cameras flashed. She approached Daniel with pride, whispering, "Why do you look like you're about to arrest someone?" He said nothing, just held her hand lightly. The pastor began. "Today we gather in love to join two hearts." But Daniel raised his hand. "Excuse me, sir." The room hushed. The pastor blinked. "Yes, my son?" Daniel stepped forward and placed a black speaker on the podium. He pressed play. Laughter echoed. Then Grace's voice. "Just let me enjoy this money first. He's just a stepping stone. Bush people, accent, Dio is better." Gasps, murmurs. One woman dropped her fan. Grace's smile collapsed. She grabbed Daniel's arm, panicked. "It was a joke. Daniel, it's not what it sounds like." He pulled away gently. Daniel turned to the audience. "I loved her. I honored her family, but this was never love. It was a transaction." He tore the wedding contract in half and dropped it. "I'm not a fool, and I won't become one today." Then he turned and walked out, calm, firm, unshaken. Guests parted in silence as the groom left. Dignity wrapped around him like a crown. Behind him, Grace stood a lone bouquet, trembling in her hands. Outside, Daniel's parents joined him. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Michael followed behind, wiping his face with his sleeve. "That was bold, bro," he whispered. "You didn't just walk away. You walked tall." Daniel exhaled slowly. "I feel like I lost something I never really had." Inside the church, Grace stood humiliated. Her bridesmaids avoided her eyes. Her parents were stone-faced. Her father's investment deal with Coltech gone. The email came that afternoon. "Due to internal changes, we're pulling out of the proposed partnership." It was the last thread holding the Adeyemi family's business hopes. That evening, Grace scrolled through her social media. The audio had gone viral. Hashtags like #runawaygroom, #brideexposed, and #dignitywins trended. Her WhatsApp buzzed with messages, none from her friends. Even Lara and Tope had muted their statuses and blocked her. In 24 hours, she went from soft life queen to a meme. She tried to call Daniel, blocked. Searched for him online. Nothing. Silence. And that silence hurt more than any public insult. 6 months passed. The media moved on. Daniel did too, not with another woman, but with purpose. He took a break from the noise and moved to Jaws. There, in the quiet hills and cool mornings, he started volunteering at a local youth center. He helped set up a computer room, donated laptops, and taught basic coding on weekends. That's where he met Belinda. Soft-spoken, intelligent, and always with a notepad. She was a volunteer teacher, fluent in Yoruba, Hausa, and Pidgin, and could calm even the most restless kids with a glance. She didn't ask about his company, didn't care about his car. She listened, she smiled. She read poetry aloud in the evenings. Daniel told his parents about her. "She doesn't try to impress," he said. "She just is." His mother smiled. "Is she Yoruba?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. His father raised an eyebrow. And you're sure? Daniel took a breath. Pain taught me discernment, not hatred. They nodded. One evening, under the trees outside the youth center, Belinda looked at him. You don't talk about your past. Daniel smiled. I don't live there anymore. She reached for his hand. Good. I like the man who came out of it. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, Daniel Cole finally understood. Some storms don't come to break you. They come to clear your path. What's your take on Daniel's journey? Would you have walked away too? Or stayed for love? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of truth, betrayal, and quiet strength, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African stories that speak to the heart.